Welcome to the 2019 Writers Training for CS Exceptions. Please log into your Zendesk account so that you can follow along when needed. By the end of this session, our goal is that you have a better understanding of how your role impacts the successfulness of Uncommon Goods. We'll review productivity, our expectations, your responsibilities, our brand voice, and how to be most effective via email and chat. Our overall goal is to always delight our customers so that they keep returning to shop with us. Thank you so much in advance for helping us attain this goal. Now, what do we mean when we say our brand voice? To give you a little bit more clarity, we're not exactly your ma'am or sir type of company. We like to be a little bit more relaxed. Relaxed, however, does not mean engaging in slang, poor writing, or accusatory language. For example, it's okay to say, "Hi, Bob," or "No problem, Sally." We just don't want to seem too rigid. "Dear sir" or "ma'am" is not us. We're also a gift company, so reps are expected to assist a customer with shopping, whether it's phone or email. Be sure to match the customer's tone. For example, if a customer is conveying that they are really upset, now is definitely not the time to make unnecessary comments or banter. Write like you speak. Be friendly, caring, and helpful. We also have a feedback group in the Zendesk group that's tied to an email address that is titled feedback@uncommongoods.com. We specifically use this when a customer says, "Hey, I have feedback about this particular thing." If they give it to you over the phone and ask for you to pass it along, that's a little different. If they specifically ask where they can forward their feedback, you would direct them to feedback@uncommongoods.com. Please keep in mind that outside of CS, other departments as well as the CEO and COO can view these feedback responses. Now let's go over our productivity goals. Here you see that we want to answer 100% of our customer-facing emails within 2 hours. Customer-facing really means things such as returns contact or order shipping problems, which you'll learn more of when you go through exceptions training. We insist on answering all customer-facing tickets within 2 hours. Why, you may ask? Well, that's because we want to be competitive with other retailers. We want to get to the customers and answer them in case they need to place their order. And we also want to prevent them from feeling that they need to send us another email or call or chat with us. The average handling time per ticket is 6 minutes. We track the amount of time it takes you to answer or update all emails and chats. Now you may be wondering, does that mean that all emails have to be handled within 6 minutes? The answer is no. It means that some emails might take you a bit longer, some will be shorter, but on average, you should be handling emails within 6 minutes. It's important to keep in mind that while we know that a 6-minute average is doable, we also know that it's more important that you help the customer completely. If you have a week where your average is 6.5 minutes, no worries. If, however, you're consistently taking 15 minutes per contact, we'll work with you to see what's going on and how we can help you. We do understand that you might have several more complicated emails that may throw off your average. So, on average, while it will be 6 minutes, please don't beat yourself up if not all of your contacts take you that long. Now let's go over resources. Some of the resources you can use is the Zendesk Guide, Slack channels, details on item page, ask answer, product story, product showroom, or each other. Now let's go over how to find some of these resources. The Zendesk Guide can be found here by clicking on Guide and going to the Customer Service Team FAQ. You can also go to the home page, go to the bottom, and click on Help Center. Both pathways will get you to the CS FAQs. If a customer has a question about an item, you can find it in the Ask and Answer on the website, which basically is where customers go to ask us questions and we answer them. So you scroll down, Click here, and sometimes it can be helpful to see if someone has asked the same question prior to, and then you'll have the answers right underneath from someone here at Uncommon Goods. Additionally, sometimes customers may not read the product page fully, so you can use the story or the details just to get some more information. You can also use the Slack channels, but when you go through exceptions training, you'll get a little bit more insight on the appropriate channels to use. You can pause here if you want to review all of the options you have available. Just a reminder, it's okay to tell a customer we don't have the answer right away. If you have used all of the available resources and still cannot locate an answer, just be honest and transparent and tell the customer that we will get back to them. Now let's go over one-touch resolution. This is a metric that measures the percentage of customers that call or email in and we resolve their issue within a single interaction. So you may ask yourself, how do we do this if we don't have all the information? Well, I'm glad you asked. Basically, what you'd want to do is read all associated tickets. You want to check all the product details. You want to check Ask Answer, use the Slack channel. You may use the Zendesk FAQ guides. And if you need to reply to the customer asking a question, you should be asking for the remaining information that they are missing, as well as supplying the next steps to the customer that will be taken to resolve the issue. Expectations and responsibilities. It's common to read part of a sentence and assume that you know what the other person is going to say, or to skim an email and answer the first question and not even realize that more questions have been asked. Take your time to read and comprehend what's being written. We're going to go through 3 examples to practice with this in just a little bit, so you get a better understanding of what I mean. You may be asking, why do we need to work on the oldest tickets first? Well, this helps us keep within our goal of answering all emails within 2 hours. If the customer is waiting longer than this, that means that we're outside of our SLAs, which is our service level agreement. If you're working diligently, you will likely meet our productivity goals without even realizing it. We'll keep an eye on productivity and let you know if we're concerned about yours. But let's talk about this for a second. What are some reasons that you might have taken longer to handle an email? Well, it could be a complicated issue, a frustrated customer, you couldn't find the answer, but we're going to go through more practice a little bit later on so you'll know how to prevent that from happening. Please pause here to review. Now we'll go over the common types of emails. We have reshipments, where a customer may want to know about the shipping time if we have to place a reshipment order. Item availability, if it's a discounted merchandise, which you'll learn a little bit more about when we go into the tiers of exceptions, the available rush options, etc. The post-order type of emails is resulting in a missing item, damaged or defective items, package not delivered or late, and so on and so forth. Spam. We know we've all been on the receiving end of spam. We've made it pretty easy for you where we created a macro for you to use, but it's very important that you know to never click on any links or attachment in an email that may result in a very negative consequence for the computer, our company, our database. So just be mindful of this. If you're ever not sure, you can ask a lead just to double check, and make sure that you're using the correct macro to close out those spam tickets as well. Let's go over some of the Zendesk terms. Tickets exist within Zendesk and can be phone calls, chats, customer emails, internal notes, or a combination of these. Groups are inboxes where tickets are filtered. Each team sets up their own groups. For example, call tickets exist in the group called CS Talk. No one else in the company that's outside of CS would see that group. Assignees. This is who a ticket is assigned to and is required to solve a ticket. A group can also be an assignee. For example, payment and billing or DS vendor inquiry is an assignee because that's a group. Now, if you want to assign it to a particular person, that's also considered an assignee. Requesters. The email address in the ticket is what the requester field is used for. An internal ticket is our UG email, and if we're emailing a customer, this would be his or her email address. Macros. These are pre-written responses that will set the title, status, contact reason, and group. It kind of makes your job a little easier. And it includes searchable keywords, so it's important that we use macros when we're responding to customers. Then there's an eyeball that you will see when you start working in Zendesk groups. And this just indicates that someone is already working on the ticket. So you want to be mindful of that. Ticket statuses. Emails are also called tickets. So tickets have different statuses. New means it's the first time an email was created. Open means there was an update and the ticket needs additional work. Pending means we are waiting on a reply from the customer. On hold means we need additional information in order to reply to the customer. For example, the weight of an airing, whether we were able to make an edit to their order or not, or what have you. Solved means the issue is complete and there's nothing else for us to do. External tickets. These are tickets where we email or reply to a customer. Now let's go over the structure for external tickets. All external tickets should have a greeting, but remember, you should not be too formal. The greetings and closings should always match the customer's tone. A closing is the last line of your email. It tells the customer that we're still here, and if they need help, they can reach back out. The salutation, sincerely, best, thank you, etc. is automatically included in each team member's signature. So make sure that you remember that so you don't put sincerely twice. Not sure what I mean? Let's go to the next slide. Here you can see an example of a ticket. It has the greeting and the closing. Everyone's signature will automatically insert sincerely and their signature. At the very bottom, everyone has an uncommon fact inserted as part of their signature. If you'd like to see what yours is, follow the pathway so you can see and log into your Zendesk if you have not already, so you can view what your uncommon fact is. If you click on your face in the top right-hand corner, click View Profile, and it'll load for a second. And you scroll down here. Here is where you'll see your signature and your uncommon fact. Now let's discuss how you can show personality in emails. You've already heard about how we tend to be a little bit more informal, so write it how you'd say it. Matching tone means if a customer is excited, you should be excited. If he or she is happy, be happy with them. If they're frustrated, empathize with them. If we made a mistake, we own the mistake and the resolution. In most cases, we can solve the problem. Offer a solution and remember you're on the customer side. So let's go through some examples. I'll read it aloud and you take a minute and really think about how you would respond. For practice purposes, you can pause the video after each response if you'd like and just type something out so you can get into the habit of how it would be. So the first example. The customer is so excited to be placing an order to send their first great-grandchild. How would you respond to them? The second example, the customer is happy to have found Uncommon Goods. We're her new favorite gift-giving source. How would you respond to that? A customer is upset that FedEx didn't ring her bell but left a notice for her to pick up her package. Think about how you would respond to that. A last example, the customer is disappointed that her order arrived broken because it was meant to be a gift for tomorrow. How would you respond to that one? Now let's go over ticket titles. If you're creating an external ticket, which means emailing the customer, you want to make sure that the subject is not going to remain the same as to how they wrote into us. So the first thing you do is change the subject to either be response from Uncommon Goods or regarding Uncommon Goods order and whatever the order number is. It's important that you do this Especially if an order is attached to a particular issue, it's important that you include the order number because we stated that our average handling time should be 6 minutes. So if it took you a while to find the order number, the next person should not have to take the same amount of time locating it. Therefore, in the subject, it's important that you include the order number when responding to the customer. Another surefire way to make sure that you are using the correct format in the subject is to use our macros. Of course, when we use the macro, it's not going to be tailored to the particular issue. So you have to remember that you are going over the macro to make sure that you edited it correctly based on the customer issue. Let's go over an example. Let's say I wanted to create a new ticket or email to the customer, and I wanted to contact them regarding a returns contact ticket, which you'll learn a little bit more about when you go through the tiered training. Oh, let's see here. It's easy for you to select the wrong one, but it's okay because if you're reviewing it, you'll catch the error before you hit send. So you see that the subject line says insert order number. Please do not send the macro in that way. Whatever the order number is, you'd want to enter it in. It's important that if an order was split into 2 shipments, that you're putting whatever dash it is in reference to. For requester, you want to make sure that you're entering in the customer's email, whatever it may be. It may be easier to just copy and paste the email address as they entered it in admin, or you can type it out. Just be careful that you're not entering it incorrectly, like I just did. It's very easy for you to miss a letter, so just be mindful of that. And then you want to go through the macro and make sure that you're tweaking it accordingly. Please pause the video and take a minute to test out some of the macro applications. This year, we have some new things that we've implemented in Zendesk. What are these? And let's find out. The first thing is macros, which we just briefly went over. And we'll discuss it a little bit more in the later slides. The next thing is play mode, knowledge capture, and contextual workspaces. Play mode. When you're in here, it allows you to automatically work from the oldest ticket to the newest ticket, and it creates a very seamless work environment when you're working in any group that you're assigned to work on. Please take a moment to pause and review this slide. Now, if you are in Zendesk, you would click play. And then it will basically put you in play mode. So whatever ticket you're working on, you'll work on this one. And then once you update it accordingly and change the status, depending on what status it should be in, it'll take you to the next ticket. If there is ever a ticket that you need to bypass for whatever reason, there will be a pop-up and you have to include the reason that you are passing over the ticket. So please keep this in mind. The goal is for you to work through the tickets and learn by practicing, because we know practice makes perfect. So you want to try to avoid skipping over tickets. You want to use your resources and ask questions because the issues are only going to keep coming back up the more that business picks up in customer service. So now we're going to talk about knowledge capture. This allows you to search for information, insert information, and flagging certain things. Take a moment to pause here so that you can go over what's on the screen. So where do you find this when you're in a ticket? You click on the magnifying glass, and then you can basically use this to search. So when you put in a keyword, things will come up and you can insert it. If there's anything that you feel is outdated, you can put a little note as to how to use it. So let's say you're like, okay, I like what this is saying. You can link it in there. You can open in the help center. Or you can leave a comment saying, hey, this is a little outdated. Can we add X, Y, and Z? So it's a lot of cool features, and the more that you use it and get used to it, it'll be a breeze. Contextual workspaces. This is one of my new favorite things. It basically shows you all of the relevant macros depending on what group you are working in. So if you are scheduled to work in returns contact, it'll show you all relevant macros to returns contact. The reason we do this is to just make your job a little easier. We have a lot of macros, but for good reason, and we don't want you to be overwhelmed when you're working in the group. Now let me show you how this works. Let's say that I'm assigned to work in returns contact. I'll click in the group. Let's go to the first ticket. Let's pretend that I hit play mode and I'm in there. And now I have to respond to the customer. If I click apply macro, it'll show me all relevant macros for returns contact. If for whatever reason this does not exactly apply to the customer's issue, which sometimes happens, but we use macros as a foundation and then we build on it, you can click the back arrow and it'll show you all of the existing macros. So this is just to give you an idea of how exactly it works. Now let's go over working in the groups. Whenever you're working in a group, you are to use play mode. This allows us to stay within our SLAs because it goes from oldest to newest. Please do not reshuffle because that will mess up our SLAs. I also want to stress that you should read the whole entire email and do not skim. You want to determine what the customer is asking. Even if someone was in there prior to you, you just want to make sure that they gave the correct information and that whatever your follow-up response is correct as well. Make sure that you locate the orders in admin and any previous tickets in Zendesk to review. You can use all the resources we just went over in regards to macros, FAQs, Slack. Sometimes you can search in Slack to see prior responses. And you also want to determine what macro best answers the customer's concerns or questions. Sometimes you definitely will have to type up a response in the event that we do not have a matching macro, or the issue is a little bigger and we know we want to personalize the reply so we don't seem so automated. Again, you want to make sure that you're editing the macro to address the customer. You want to edit the name, acknowledge the issue, apologize and express empathy. Detail steps of what will happen next and how we will rectify an issue. You also want to review internal and external replies. We'll go over the differences between that. And then you want to submit your ticket with the appropriate status. You would use solved if you addressed everything, pending if you're waiting for a reply, or open if there is additional follow-up to be done. The only time a ticket is placed on hold is if you are told to do so. The exception, of course, is spam, in which case you'd use the spam macro and it'll take care of it from there. And last but not least, remember to link your tickets. If you go into an issue and you see that the prior rep did not link the ticket, it is now your job to do so. We want to make sure that all related tickets are attached to all related orders. So please keep this in mind when working in the groups. I know that I was talking as the slide was up, so if you want to pause here to review it, please do so. Now let's go over public and internal. You'll hear us use this a lot. So you can reply to a customer and make a request in one ticket. We like to use both. We don't want to overwhelm anyone that's going into an order and then they see 5 tickets attached. We can use one thread and then reply to the customer within it. So when writing to the customer, you want to reply in the public or the white section. And when submitting an internal request, this is any notes for the next CS rep, another department, or what have you, it would be in the yellow. But be sure that you're submitting it the correct way and to the correct group. Here is a perfect example of public and internal. Here, Sabrina sent this to a customer. We were including a return prepaid label. And then in the internal note, she included an associated ticket. This is only seen by anyone that works within Uncommon Goods. The next person came in and responded to the customer again in white. So how do you do this? It's a simple click. If it's public, it'll turn white, and this is for everyone to see, including the customer. If it's internal, it would be yellow. One thing to note, if it's a new ticket and you're putting in an internal request, it'll automatically be white. So that means that if everyone can see your initial response, you want to make sure that you're using the correct corresponding responses. So if it's something that the first message should only be seen by Uncommon Goods, you should just create a separate ticket because you don't want the customer to see our internal notes. Again, this only applies when you are creating a new ticket. So let's say that this had some very secret information that we did not want the customer to be privy to. It would not be wise for us to use one ticket to go back and forth with them because they would see the internal notes. Because the first initial note, it was okay, it was intended for the customer, everything thereafter is okay if you want to leave internal notes. Now let's go through some exercises. Exercise 1. We have an email here from a customer. Please pause and review what was said. The first thing you want to ask is, what does this customer want to know? The second thing to note is, we don't have an order number or last name. So how do we find the order? The goal here is to answer our customers' questions and solve their problems using our brand voice. So you want to read the email, chat thoroughly and answer all of the customer's questions, anticipate their next question, and provide an answer before they even ask. So use all your available resources to help you out. Now let's see how we can locate this customer. We can either use their name or email address. Since we have their email address, it may be easier to do that. So let's try that in admin. When you're in admin, you want to enter in the email address here under the customer service tab and find order. It's better sometimes for you to X out the date just to open up the window a little bit more so you'll get all of the results for this particular customer. So we see that they place a lot of orders with us. So let's look back at the email to see what exactly it is that they wanted. There may be some instances where the customer may place 2 orders on the same day. So you want to make sure that you are reading all of what they were asking. And in this particular instance, the customer said, hey, I placed an order for my sister. She's having a baby. I would just want to basically track to see what's going on with the order. So the initial instinct would be to check the latest order, but just keep in mind that sometimes they can place multiple orders on the same day. So that's something to know. Now let's pull up the order. And you want to scroll down and verify, is this anything related to what she was saying? Yes. So it must be this one. It's the last order she just placed. It includes the baby items. And she also included a cute little message here. The next thing you would do is track the package and follow up with the customer accordingly. Please pause the video and draft a response to see if you have the gist of it. Here is exercise number 2. This customer emailed us and stated, I placed an order on 10/17/18, but never received my tracking number. Please let me know when to expect it. If it hasn't shipped yet, I'd like to add another pair of socks to the order. Thanks. Take a moment to pause this video and see if you can locate the order in admin. I would advise you to try to use a macro or draft a response just to see if you got the gist of it. Exercise number 3. This person wrote into us and they basically are saying they have not received their order confirmation. They want us to look into it and they basically want to confirm what the spelling is on their item. Let's see if we can locate this order in admin. So we're going to go to admin, customer service, find order, and we're going to put in the email address. Make sure there's no space. Sometimes it's case sensitive and a space does count as a character. We're going to deselect the start date and we're going to search. No results have come up. So let's go back to the email and see why that may have been, or what we can also use to pull up the order. So now we put in the email address here in admin and nothing came up. So this could be one of two things. Either they entered a different email address when placing the order, or maybe there was a typo when they entered in their email address while they were placing the order. So what else can we use? If you want to search the name Smith, you will probably be there for a very long time because it's a common last name. What we can do though is we can either put the last name with the exact item number that they are inquiring about. We can we can assume that the first name is a Q because that's within the email. Hopefully that's not a typo. And follow it with the last name. So let's try both to see what the results came up with. So I entered Q Smith and I deselected the start date and hit search. And now I have 2 orders. This may not be the best result for this particular instance. So let's try the other method that we talked about, which was putting the last name along with the item number. So they said they ordered the personalized whiskey barrel. Let's try to pull that up or click on it. And we're going to get the item number from here. Now let's go back to admin. The last name was Smith. The item number, deselect this, and we're going to search it. So we're going to click on this here. And let's look at the email and see what they actually put. So let's review the email. He had smithq5@yahoo.com. So we want to keep this in mind along with the search that we use, which was the last name and the item number. And don't forget that this is the information that he entered, he or she, sorry, for the item. So let's try to see if we can find a match. All right, so I've done a search. I've scrolled all the way down and I found it. So it looks to be here that the customer had a typo when they entered their email address. So that's why we couldn't pull it up when we put in the initial email from where they actually wrote in from. So let's go into the order and then we can follow up with the customer accordingly. So that's just some examples of what you can use to find an order if the customer does not include all of the order information when they're writing into us. And we're going to check the spelling. See, it's the order. So when we're responding, we're going to answer them and let them know the tracking information when the order is arriving. And any gift messaging they entered, we're going to reconfirm how the spelling was entered for the order because that's what they were asking about as well. We will include the order number within the email that we're sending them. We will also let them know, hey, we see that there was a typo, but we fixed that. So we want to go in and edit that for the customer. And this will all ensure that we're making sure that this is a one-touch resolution. You want to make sure that you're answering all of the questions, you're anticipating their next question, and just resolving the issue. The most they will respond back with is thank you, in which case we don't have to respond to that. So technically, it would still be a one-touch resolution. So internal tickets, you may be familiar with vendor inquiries. You'll learn more about payment and billing. These are all things that basically it's internal requests, whether it's within customer service is requesting something to drop ship, the warehouse. These are what we consider internal tickets to be. So we went over external and then we went over internal. So let's talk about a few things to note when you're dealing with internal tickets. You want to review all attached tickets before following up. The prior rep may have mistakenly not included the ticket in an order. So again, if you come in and you see that, make sure that you attach the ticket. Make sure that you are reviewing all tickets. You're coming in with a fresh eye, so you may catch something that will allow us to resolve the issue. Don't automatically think that everything was answered by the prior rep. You want to make sure you're reviewing it just to ensure that that was done. If you're doing a follow-up response, please do not just copy and paste what the last person stated. For one, it's not going to be on par with our brand voice. So we don't want to seem robotic and just copy and paste the same thing over and over. Additionally, you don't know if the prior person made a mistake. So now we're just copying and pasting typos left and right. Let's avoid doing that and personalize it a little bit. Again, you can still use macros, but macros are the foundation. You have to edit it accordingly based on the customer's issue. You want to make sure that you're tracking packages before following up with the customer. Double check that if they said, hey, I did not get my order yet and it's late, double check what shipping method they selected. What day did they place it? What time did they place it? Track the package to make sure it is in fact late. These are the type of things that you would have to think about as an exceptions rep. Also, you may not only be dealing with customers via email. Sometimes it's quicker to respond to them via phone. While customers provide us with an email and phone number, we do email them for some instances, but if you go into a ticket and it states the next contact has to be a phone call, please make sure that you're calling the customer. One thing to note is where the customer is located. So as a rule of thumb, we make sure we do not call customers before 9 a.m. their time, not our time. If it's 9 a.m. here, it doesn't matter if the person lives in California. We don't want to call them at an obscene time of the day. We also don't want to call customers after 9 p.m. their time unless they specifically request it. We have customers that may say, hey, I don't get home until 10. Can you please call me at 10:30? Those cases are okay, but you want to make sure that you are noting that in a ticket so that the next person knows that. If you leave a message, please be vague. That means this is the season where people are doing their most gift shopping. So we don't want to ruin the surprise. Don't say, hey, Mr. Smith, your wife's bracelet that you were purchasing her is going to be late. That messes up the customer experience and also ruins the surprise. So give them just enough information that, hey, I'm calling from Uncommon Goods in regards to your order number. Insert the order number here. Give us a call back. And you just want to be a little bit vague, but still give enough information so they would reach back out. Also, it's important to note that U.S. residents would use our 888 number because they can dial toll-free. However, our international residents would have to use our 718 number because they cannot dial in via the 888 number. Please pause the video here if you need to review. This concludes our writer's training for CS exceptions. You will have a little quiz to go over just to make sure that you retain the information. The next steps is your exceptions training. We will follow up with you on the date and time for that. It'll also be self-guided and it'll have a little bit more information there as well. So good luck.